Welcome to another video and thanks for joining the discussion. I'm going to cover, this is like an update video, but I'm going to cover MOMO, the Chinese social media stock and dating app in China. And I'm going to cover some of the data, the price to sales, some of their earnings, some of the revenue, and cover some risks involved with a stock like this. So I hope you enjoy it. First off, let's cover the stock chart over the past, 5 years, just some historical information in case you're not aware or haven't looked in a while. MOMO started out in 2016 after it IPO'd or joined the exchanges, and it was around 10 bucks. It had massive success to around 50 bucks, and then there was a crackdown in China because the app was getting a lot of negative attention for I guess there were some scandalous things with the users putting up provocative content. There was a crackdown, and that regulation brought the market down for the MOMO stock. Now it's sitting around $13, $14. It did go around $10, which is a huge drop from where it was. So that's the price action, historical price action in MOMO. Jumping on here on Seeking Alpha, let's look at some of their company fundamental data. MOMO, which recently changed its name to Hello Group, still trades under the ticker MOMO. If we look market cap, it's a $2.7 billion company. It has a PE of 9, which is a very low PE for a tech stock. This is a app social media play in China, and anything below 14 and 15 would be considered a discount. If we look at the revenue, the annual revenue has been steady. No major drops. It did have bigger growth before. Now it's a little flat, and the idea or the thesis is that it potentially rises and continues to rise. At least that's my thesis. So what was the highest? 2.4 billion, and then 2.3, 2.27, 2.52. So for 2022, which is next year, they're going to start to have some growth again. That's what makes me interested, because they used to have great growth, and I do believe that it's coming back as shown here by the expectations by analysts. The earnings, I'm not too interested in that right now. I want to see it grow sales, so we'll just skip over that. The earnings estimates, and specifically the sales estimates, they're right here. 2021, 2.27 billion. Followed by 2.52 billion, and then 2.75 billion. So what we want to see, is, of course, is growth, and the growth rate here year over year on the sales is 10%, which it's not the fastest growing stock, but for this stock, it's a good thing that the growth rate in the sales is going to go up and stay up year over year. And because the sales will bring profits, and the profits will grow faster than expenses, we hope. You see double digit, more than 10% year over year growth in the earnings. So that's the good stuff. Down here, we have the price to sales below 0.9, below 1. So this is not an expensive stock when you consider the sales and what you're getting. And if you extrapolate the sales, if it's continues to be one-time sales, then you would expect the company to be 2.2, 2.5, eventually 2.7. And if it keeps growing, 10% every year, the sales go up, and then the company value should go up. What is the value right now? 2.7 billion. And I'm going to show the price to sales historically, but just keep in mind that sales are going to hopefully keep growing. The earnings calls from the MOMO guys and gal said that they expect big growth. Now, if you expect growth, 1-time sales is very low. The market as a whole trades between 1 and 3 times sales if it doesn't have any growth. But for a growth company with scale, you can see multiples of 10 times sales, 20 times sales, even 40 times sales. And that would be the idea. That's the whole purpose in investing in an undervalued growth stock. If this is an undervalued growth stock, this multiple is way too low. Returning to the chart of MOMO, I have below the actual price to sales ratio that we just looked at. Now the price to sales ratio it's showing here is 0.99, which is pretty close to what Seeking Alpha is showing. But if you look further back, when it first came out, the company, because they were expecting a large growth rate, this was trading at 35, 36, 37 times sales. When a company has big expectations of growth, you get these big multiples. So they were pricing in 35 years worth of sales for that year. Now it's only 1-time sales. If you look at this moving average, it's declining. It's going down. What I would want to see if a company starts to ramp up, you're going to see a valuation multiple. This price to sales is going to start to get bigger. So even in a normal range, you get 1 to 2 times sales. We're not even there. We're below 1. So there is no love for this stock. There is no love for MOMO. Even back here, it was at 5 times sales. 5 times sales, I guess that's closer to a good valuation. If it just went back to that normal, this stock would move 5 times. 5 times on this current price is a lot of dough because MOMO has had increasing sales. These are the revenue estimates going forward. And if you look, the revenue estimates have gone up and then sideways. And if things go well for MOMO after their turnaround, you're going to see hopefully steady rise in earnings, which would be reflected later on in a steady rise in the multiple of price to sales, which would lead to a higher stock price. Now, sometimes there's different websites that offer their own recommendation or guidance on what a company should be worth. One of those is Simply Wall Street, and I'm on there right now on their information for MOMO. And there's a section that I like to look at, which is the valuation. And for MOMO, they believe it's very undervalued, more than 50% undervalued, which is, it's a good thing to see other people agree with your thesis that something might be cheap. Now, they say the fair value is around $51. The current price is $13. So it's hard to say, it's hard to predict whether a company is going to reach that fair value. And the fair value could also increase if the sales go up that year or quarter, and the fair value could also go down if the sales go in the other direction. Recently, in the month of October, MOMO did go down to, it looks like, a low of $10. But there has been a large push higher with all this green volume. So I'm optimistic that maybe MOMO could see the beginning of a bull move after this downtrend. Looking at the weekly chart, you see that 4 weeks is not a lot of volume. It's only 1 month. But if we start to see a series of higher highs, which we don't have yet, all the lows and the highs are declining. If we start to see price action over 14, if we start to see the price to sales multiple get over 1, and maybe something like earnings, when the earnings calls come out, the earnings call would be November 30, according to TradingView. That would be good. Reported last quarter was 568 million. The estimate is 572. So maybe if they start to get some good news, they'll get some good valuation. But based on all the fundamentals, the stock is cheap, as is. The S&P 500 I was looking at earlier has a price to sales ratio of 3, over 3. So compared to the S&P 500, this stock is very cheap. And I can also just divide it and compare it to the S&P 500. If you look at the weekly chart, let's take the volume out. Of course, we already know this. The MOMO priced in the S&P is very cheap. There's no argument there. Lastly, in closing, I want to point out that there is a significant amount of risk in investing or trading a stock like MOMO. And the big major risk is the geopolitical risk and the fact that there has not been a lot of testing of international investor rights in Chinese equities. There's some gray areas regarding how strong the law is in favor of protecting investor rights. That's a concern. Can China just take over a company or change or regulate a company and then, hurt investors? That's a big possibility. And I do feel like that's a major reason why MOMO isn't getting a better valuation. Plus, the turnaround hasn't taken effect, even though it's estimated and forecasted that revenues are going to start to rise. You're not seeing investors pile in, and you're seeing it across all of Chinese stocks. So the whole category of Chinese stocks have to become in fashion. There has to be confidence, and then that's when we'll see if MOMO will perform well. If you have any questions, go ahead and reach out. And remember, this is not advice. This is just my opinion on the information available. The information can change. Don't trade off this information because you'll lose money. Be careful, stay safe, and let me know if you need any help.